Roasted chicken is kind of my busy day meal. I never really take time on my busy day meals to make a wine mushroom sauce, but I really should because it is so delicious. In fact, I might skip the chicken and just eat this. It's really good. What's great about roasted chicken too is that you can convert it into sandwiches or tacos. You always have leftovers, and leftovers mean great quick meals as well. So I look forward to having leftover chicken in the refrigerator. I mean, who doesn't? That is very good. Hey y'all, I'm Melissa Guerra. I am the kitchen wrangler, and last week I posted a photo of what I was making for lunch, which was roasted chicken. In addition to working around the ranch, my husband is an artist, and so he spends a lot of time in the studio, and I'm usually photographing, so both of us are usually going crazy. And as much as I love to cook, sometimes I don't want to stop to cook. So my solution is to make roasted chicken. It is incredibly easy, and I really never thought about demonstrating the recipe until someone contacted me online and said, hey, how do you make that? So thank you so much for the inspiration, and today that's what we're going to be making. There are millions of ways to roast a chicken, prepare a chicken. This is minimalistic chicken. That's not really the name of the recipe. This is a very minimalistic procedure for getting lunch or dinner on the table. So I'm going to give you my top 5 tips for roasting a chicken as simply as possible. And if you watch all 5 tips, I'm going to share a very quick recipe for a mushroom wine pan sauce. So if you have a little extra time, you can get a little extra fancy. Before we get started, let's turn on our oven to 400 degrees. Tip number 5, when planning to cook a chicken, always estimate 1 hour. There's a huge range of chicken that you can buy at the supermarket. Sometimes you'll find chicken that's already been cut into pieces, or you'll find a nice plump chicken that you'd like to roast. If you estimate about an hour, then you can adjust your hour depending on the size of the chicken that you have on hand. I purchased a 5-pound chicken, which is really huge. So I took that hour and I added increments of 10 minutes, and it took about an hour and a half to roast the whole chicken that I have. As for the chicken pieces that I roasted today, that took about 45 minutes, so just under an hour. I can't tell you just one time because all chickens are different. So whatever you find, you need to estimate for an hour. If it's smaller, take time away. And if it's larger than 3 to 4 pounds and it's a whole chicken, then you need to add increments of 10 minutes until the chicken is done. If you think you're gonna go all fancy and add some stuffing to your whole roasted chicken, that is a completely different video. So just for the purposes of keeping things simple, these are just very plain roasted chickens that we're doing today. Tip number 4, the 2 things that will tell you that your chicken is fully cooked is the juices that are coming out of the chicken and a thermometer. I'll be honest, I don't use a thermometer all that often. I always watch the chicken, and I have roasted so many chickens throughout the years that I can pretty much tell if it's cooked or not. Looking at the pan juices is an excellent way to determine if the chicken is cooked. If the juices that are coming from the chicken are still a little pinky red, leave the chicken in there for another 10 minutes and check it again. If the juices are clear and nutty brown, then you know that the chicken is absolutely ready. Thermometers are great too, but when you use the thermometer, you always have to insert it into the thickest part of the chicken, usually around the breast or the thigh. The temperature should register around 145 Fahrenheit. Now the USDA says that 165 is the safe temperature for fully cooked chicken. I agree. But if you remove your chicken at 165 from the oven, once you take it out of the oven, it's going to continue to cook and it will dry out. You will be disappointed. It's just not going to be juicy. If you remove the chicken from the oven at 145 and let it rest on the countertop, then the chicken will continue to cook for about another 10 to 15 minutes outside of the oven. The reason I don't use a thermometer all that often is because opening and closing the oven, it makes the heat level fluctuate. and the fluctuations are going to make it a lot longer of a process to cook your chicken. So usually I try to leave the chicken in the oven for about 40 minutes before I start checking it. Tip number 3 for your roasted chicken: make sure that the heat can get to every surface on the chicken. Roasting is somewhat a process of dehydration. So in your roasting pan, you kind of want to lift the chicken up a little bit. I have a couple of different grills. They are in really, really bad condition because I've been using them for a very long time. But what these little racks do is they lift the chicken out of the pan juices and allow the oven heat to wrap itself entirely around the chicken. If you just plop your chicken in a pan, it's gonna be sitting in the pan juices, and then most of the back will be sort of rubbery and soggy. A few of my little extra tricks are to add a piece of parchment paper to the bottom of the pan, or spray your rack with a little bit of food spray, and that will help with cleanup later, because I hate washing dishes. I really do. Tip number 2, and this is especially for novice chicken roasters out there: just season your chicken with salt and pepper. You think, well, that's pretty boring. But there is so many different types of salts out there that you can create a wonderful texture on the chicken with just the right salt. Here's an example of all of the different salts that I have in my kitchen. I have flake salt, I have sea salt, I have kosher salt, I have salt crystals, and I have seasoned salt. All sorts of different salts can give a different texture because they will absorb or dissolve at different rates. Try a bunch of different varieties and see which one you like. I personally like salt flakes because they're very, very thin, very crispy, and they will mix with the fats and the juices of the chicken, dissolve nicely, but still keep a little bit of a crispy texture for the skin of the chicken, which is my favorite. I know some of you are dying to add herbs to the roast chicken, but again, we are doing this as simply as possible. Save the herbs for later. And my number 1 top tip for roasting your chicken is enjoy that 1 hour of time that you have while you are roasting that chicken. Now, what else could you do in an hour? You could prepare the rest of your meal, or you could have a conversation with the person you'll be dining with, or you can just enjoy a glass of wine. That 1 hour of roasting a chicken, we all need or 1 hour of roasting a chicken. It's a beautiful 60 minutes that you can enjoy. So now that the chickens are roasted, let's talk about our mushroom wine sauce that I told you about. If you have a little bit of extra time, it's totally worth it. But before we talk about the sauce, let's talk about the pans. The roasting pans that I'm using today are metal, although you can use a glass or a ceramic pan for roasting your chicken. If you want to make this pan sauce, you can't put a glass or ceramic roasting pan directly on the flame of your stove. It'll burst. Glass and ceramic don't like really abrupt temperature changes. So if you used a glass or a ceramic pan for roasting your chicken, simply transfer the pan drippings to a metal skillet so we can make this sauce. For the mushroom wine sauce, I'm going to use the juices that have collected underneath the chicken pieces that I roasted. Scrape up all of those yummy little crispy bits that have collected underneath and turn on the stove so that they heat up a little bit. You need about 2 tablespoons of fat in the roasting juices, and if your chicken didn't release enough fat into the roasting juices, you can add a little bit of olive oil back to your pan. Add about 1 pound of sliced mushrooms and let those cook in the pan juices so that your mushrooms brown nicely. Make a slurry with wine and a little bit of flour. Once the flour is completely dissolved, pour it into the heating pan. Now this will thicken up very quickly, so add a little bit more wine to thin it down to the consistency you'd like. Let the sauce bubble for about 10 minutes on a very low heat so that the wine burns off. Add salt and pepper to taste. So that's it. 1 hour, 1 chicken, 1 meal. It all comes together in a very short amount of time. Well, I am so glad that you reached out to me with this suggestion for easy roasted chicken. It's something that I do here at the ranch once or twice a week. Very, very easy. And if you're having a busy day, you'll know that in 1 hour, you can have a lovely roasted chicken meal. Now, if you have any questions questions, you can message me at help@kitchenwrangler.com or message me through Facebook, through Instagram, through YouTube. I am always here to answer your kitchen questions and send me your requests. You know I love hearing from you. I'm Melissa Guerra, I am the Kitchen Wrangler, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the ranch again soon. Bye now.